Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, brothers and sisters, when Ramadan comes, obviously it upsets, in a good way, it upsets our routine, the way we normally do things. Our entire routine is upset, in a good way, as I said, by Ramadan. We make several adjustments in our schedule to accommodate the prescribed and recommended regimen of Ramadan. So Ramadan comes with this prescribed fasting and other prescriptions. It also comes with recommendations about how we should conduct ourselves. And because of that, we find that our turned upside down. Not complaining, this is a good thing. And some examples of this, how these changes, how Ramadan introduces changes in our daily schedule. For example, fasting alters our meal times and eating habits. That's an obvious one. Another one is that it also gives us a heightened level of self-control. So basically, fasting comes into our life and helps us, enables us to fight off our cravings, to control our appetites rather than be controlled by our appetites. The month of the Quran status of Ramadan forces us to make time we don't usually allot for Quranic reading and study. And that's not to insult anyone or to insinuate that we're not studying the Quran outside of Ramadan. But all of us have to admit that we generally, when Ramadan comes, we spend a lot more time reading and studying the Quran than we do outside of Ramadan. So that's another way that our schedule is altered. We have to basically make time now for more Quranic study, more Quranic reading, etc. Also, with this strong encouragement to spend the nights. Obviously, that impacts our sleep patterns, right? But more importantly than impacting our sleep patterns, this conditioning ourselves to get up every night and pray at night, it makes us accustomed and also makes us very fond of the night vigil. The night vigil at-tahajjud. We become fond of it. We long for it. It'll be peaceful, it'll be quiet, everyone else will be sleeping, and we'll be able to have this secret conversation with our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, Ramadan, it comes with this increased incentive to do good deeds, right? And creates this, and all this incentive to do good deeds, all the good deeds that we do, the increase in our intensity of worship, creates this remarkable closeness, this feeling of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is unmatched in the other months. So we feel more conscious of Allah, more mindful of our duty to Him. We feel more, we feel good. We feel more spiritual. We feel more spiritually connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an impact, a direct impact of what? Of the coming of Ramadan and everything that comes with the Ramadan regimen, as you say. Also, Ramadan comes with this encouragement to avoid evil, to be mindful that certain things that we do outside of Ramadan, if we do them in Ramadan, they will destroy our Ramadan, or at least depreciate the reward. They will minimize the reward that we get for our fasting. And so most of us become very keen, right, to avoid sin in Ramadan. We develop this vigilance, this self-discipline that we really don't have outside of Ramadan. You find people, for example, there are certain conversations that are brought up and they say, I don't want to get into that conversation because it could lead to backbiting, it could lead to slander. I don't want to be involved in that. You see people avoiding certain circles. You see people, for example, closing or pausing their social media accounts. That they stop getting on social media because they don't want to be exposed to certain things. Or at the very least, you'll find them limiting the amount of posting that they do. Again, all of this, to avoid sin. They become more vigilant, more disciplined. All of us, we find this impact. Another thing is the last 10 days of Ramadan gives us a tremendous level of spiritual endurance. Spending the whole night in worship, it gives us a level of strength, a spiritual strength that we don't usually have outside of Ramadan. So these are some, right, of the impacts of Ramadan on our daily regimen, our daily schedules, and on our lives physically and spiritually. Now, when you consider, brothers and sisters, all of these changes that Ramadan introduces in our lives, when the month ends, naturally, a void is left in our lives. In the places that were impacted by Ramadan, a void is left now. And this is empty, makes some of us feel sad, depressed, and confused about what to do now that Ramadan is over. You feel like, okay, now what do I do? You have to pick up the pieces almost. One thing that we don't go back to life as we knew it before Ramadan, because that would undermine the purpose of Ramadan itself. And so in an effort to help us all cope with these feelings, I would like to spend the next couple of days talking about what we should do now after Ramadan. How do we pick up the pieces but avoid just slipping into the bad habits and customs and, routine that we had before Ramadan. So what I want to basically mention is a collection of action items, things that we should be keen to do now that Ramadan has. Action items is that we should to secure the reward. Underline the word secure. Keen to secure the reward of Ramadan and avoid indifference or overconfidence. Avoid indifference or overconfidence when it comes to what the reward for Ramadan. Now, what are we talking about when what are we talking about? Let me pause briefly and let's contemplate or ponder. What are we talking about when we talk about the reward for Ramadan? Okay, Ramadan, as we all know, is a tremendously meritorious and ritual. And it is full of rewards and blessings. And some examples of these blessings are, first of all, fasting is graded on a different scale. Fasting is graded on a different scale than the other deeds. That's the first thing about Ramadan that just sticks out. As the Prophet says, he said in the Hadith, he said, "Kullu amli ibn Adam yudha'af." He said, all the acts of worship done by Ibn Adam are multiplied. So basically a person, they are multiplied. And so basically what that means is that a person, for the good deeds they do in Ramadan, they get more reward for what they do in Ramadan than they do outside of Ramadan. The Prophet said, generally speaking, Kullu amli ibn Adam yudha'af. All of the deeds of the son of Adam, yudha'af. They are multiplied. They get multiple rewards, meaning that you get more what the actual value of the deed is. Then the Prophet explains how that happens. He says, Al-hasanatu bi ashri amthaliha. He said, every deed you do will be rewarded 10 times its value. Ila sab'imiyati dhif. And it will continue to be multiplied in accordance with the will of Allah and in accordance with what? How well we do it. How much it's in accord with the sunnah, etc. Allah will continue to multiply the reward of 700. That's all the deeds. Your prayer, your zakat, your other acts of obedience, your voluntary charity, the kind words, all of these are rewarded up to what? 700 times their value. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَّهُ تَعَالَى إِلَّا الصَّوْمَ فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Except fasting, it is for a special reward for it. It means there's no ceiling. The ceiling is only known to Allah, and Allah is going to give more than 700 times for fasting. So that's one of the things that go hand in hand with fasting in Ramadan, is that the reward for the fasting we do in Ramadan is what? Yudha'af. It's multiplied. That's one thing. Another thing is that that comes part and parcel as far as rewards for Ramadan that we should be keen to secure is the forgiveness of past and previous sins. Look at all those hadith where the Prophet said, he would say something like, Man sama Ramadan, whoever fasts the month of Ramadan. He would say, Man qama Ramadan, whoever stood the night in prayer every night in Ramadan. Whoever stood the night in worship, the night of power, the night of decree in worship. And he concluded all of the hadith by saying, غُفِرْ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. All of his past and previous sins would be forgiven. So that's another benefit and reward of Ramadan that we should be keen to what? To secure. And then thirdly, from the rewards, and again, we're just mentioning these examples to make a point, is liberation from the fire. That another that we should be keen to secure is having our necks free from the hellfire. That Allah, the Prophet ﷺ described fasting in general and fasting in Ramadan in particular as a junnah, as a shield, a protection, something which is like a firewall between you and the hellfire. People who fast don't go to hell, basically. Is what the Prophet is implying. He says, what? Is a shield from the hellfire. And he said in the other hadith, Allahi utaqa'u min an-nar wa dhalika fi kulli layla, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has people that he will liberate from the hellfire every night in Ramadan. Every night in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will liberate people, free their necks. They should go to hell by virtue of the deeds that they've done. They've entitled themselves to punishment. But Allah will grant a stay to their sentence. He will pardon them. He will not, even though they have earned punishment. So this is another virtue of Ramadan. And last but not least, from the virtues I want to mention, is that not only is it a protection from the hellfire, but it's also a ticket to paradise. So the Prophet said in the hadith, he said, "Inna fil jannati baban yuqal lahu ar-rayyan yadkhulu minhu as-sa'imun." He said, there is a gate in paradise called ar-rayyan, and from it, through it, the people who fasted will enter, meaning the people who fasted will enter paradise. So these are some of the virtues of fasting. But brothers and sisters, rather than assume secure these rewards, we must actively ensure their attainment. We shouldn't assume, we should actively ensure their attainment. How do we do that? By asking Allah repeatedly to accept our Ramadan from us. So the first action item after Ramadan ends is to busy ourselves with dua to Allah, asking Him to what? To accept Ramadan. Allahumma taqabbal minna Ramadan. Allahumma taqabbal minna Ramadan. Right? Oh Allah, accept from us our Ramadan. Oh Allah, accept from us our Ramadan. To make this dua, as Ibn Rajab, he mentioned in his book Lataif al-Ma'arif, he mentioned regarding the early Muslims, كانوا يدعون الله ستة أشهر أن يبلغهم رمضان ثم يدعون الله ستة أشهر أن يتقبله منهم. He said they used to ask Allah, the early Muslims used to ask Allah for 6 months to permit them to reach the month of Ramadan, the month which is full of all these rewards, which we mentioned some of them. And then after Ramadan, they would pray to Allah for 6 months to accept it from them. So we have to be in the regular custom and habit. First action item after Ramadan is to regularly ask Allah, not for the first day, the first week, the first couple of weeks to accept Ramadan, but to ask Him repeatedly, up to 6 months after Ramadan, we're still asking Allah to what? To accept it. Why? Because we are keen to secure these rewards. We don't just assume, khalas, all my sins are going to be forgiven. I fasted, khalas, I'm going to paradise. That Allah accepted it from us. So we ask Allah, out of His mercy, His kindness, and His generosity, to accept our Ramadan, because we have not done Him a favor by practicing Ramadan. He is doing us a favor by accepting it. And so we ask Allah to do us that favor and to accept our Ramadan. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. The second action item that we'll mention today is to maintain the regular practice of fasting. That basically fasting, one of the benefits of Ramadan is that it gets us accustomed to fasting. And it makes it quite easy and doable for most of us. Most of us leave Ramadan, and if we had to continue fasting, we could do it. I got this. If I had to, I could do another 5 days. I could do another 10 days. Because why? I've got accustomed to it. And so just because Ramadan ends doesn't mean that the ritual of fasting should end in our lives. That basically should just disappear from our lives until what? Until the next Ramadan. But we have to realize in our minds that fasting is extremely virtuous, not just in Ramadan, but outside of Ramadan. And it's one of those acts that the Muslim is supposed to make a regular part of what? A regular part of his life outside of Ramadan, not just in Ramadan. We have the hadith collected by Nasai on authority of Abi Umama. Collected by Nasai, rahimahullah ta'ala, on authority of Abi Umama, radiyallahu anhu. That he came to the Prophet and he said, Ya Rasulullah, ayyul amali afdal. He said, O Messenger of Allah, what is the best deed? What deed do you advise me to be keen to do it all the time and make it a regular habit and custom of my own? So the Prophet said, Alayka bis-sawm, فَإِنَّهُ لَعِدْلَ لَهُ. He told him, take to fasting, for it has no equivalent. There's nothing which can equate to fasting. Make it your regular practice and habit, Abi Umama, to what? To fast. And so this is something which is recommended for the Muslim all the time, not just Ramadan. So we shouldn't end our connection with fasting just because the month of fasting has ended. Rather, we should make it a point to fast throughout what? Throughout the year after Ramadan. And obviously the most important and critical fast that we should do after Ramadan, the first action item, which is, I guess you could say a sub-action item from this action item, is what fast should we be keen to perform? The first one on your list should be the fasting of the 6 days of Shawwal. As the Prophet said in the hadith, he said, he said, Man sama Ramadan, thumma atba'ahu sitta min shawwal, kana ka siyam ad-dahr. He said that whoever fasted the month of Ramadan, then followed it with 6 days from Shawwal, it will be as if he fasted the entire year, the entirety, subhanallah. So if you fast these 6 days, it will be as if you fast the entire year. After that, the next series of fasts on your list should be those highly encouraged fasts that the Prophet used to emphasize and stress. Like fasting the first 9 days of the Hijjah, the first 9 days leading up to Eid al-Adha. And also the 10th of Muharram and Yom Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, Yom Ashura. These are 2 fasts, and we should be keen to fast every year. We fast these fasts. After that, it is also important for us to make it a regular practice to fast in the month. Each month, we should have set aside days that we fast. The best thing, Allah knows best, is to fast every Monday and Thursday, such that you end up fasting per month. The regular practice of the Prophet and many of his companions, and many of those early pious predecessors and Muslims that we look up to. If we can't do this, at least 3 days every month. As the Prophet said in the hadith, collected by Al-Bukhari Muslim, on the authority of Abd'Llah ibn Amr ibn al-As, he told him, he said, Siyamu thalathati ayyam min al-shahr ka siyam al-dahr. He told him, fasting days from each entire year. Fasting 3 days from each month is like fasting the entire year. So if you can't do 8 days a month, which would be Mondays and Thursdays of each week, then do 3 days a month, and this will be as if you fast the entire year, as we find the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Even, and at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, even if you can't do that, 1 day a month, make it a point to fast. Do not let fasting disappear from your life because Ramadan has ended. Make it a point at least once a month to fast. Have a regular connection with the ritual of fasting throughout the year. This is the second action item on our list of things to do now that Ramadan has ended. With that, we will bring today's session to close. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll have one more session tomorrow and we'll complete the list of maybe about, I think I have 6 or 7 things I wanted to mention. So we mentioned 2 of them. So we have 4 or 5 remaining. And we'll meet, inshallah, to discuss this topic. May Allah bless you all. May Allah bless your houses, bless your spouses, bless your families, bless your children. Bless the rest of your day. Bless the rest of your month. Make us all from those who fast these 6 days of Shawwal. Make us from those who are keen to perform these and other action items after Ramadan, and to try to maintain intensity that